Thank you so much, Kelvin. And today we will be talking about what has been happening in the past 7 days. And of course, just before I talk about this week in tech, its short form is tweet, which is interesting because today we'll be talking about a lot of social media happening, and the transformation from free media to paid for social media, premium. And so to start with is something about Kenya launching its first Earth observation satellite. The satellite is called Taifa 1, and the interesting thing about it is 9 engineers from Kenya designed it. It was launched by a SpaceX rocket called the Falcon 9, and 1 hour 4 minutes after the launch, it was announced they had detached. So that satellite particularly, the science to it is it will stay up there for around 5 years, and then it will maybe start decaying. So its functionality goes for around 5 years, and then it will go to the higher space and disappear and burn out. And so something more interesting about it is that the 9 engineers, and of course it was designed in Bulgaria, worth 15 million Kenyan shillings paid slowly. And the most important thing about it is we get to collect data, and data is good for perhaps stuff like mitigating stuff like climate change, knowing when floods would come and where drought is. And so that's just about the Taifa 1. And then the next one, last week there was a heavy interview by the BBC, one of the BBC correspondents with Elon Musk. Something happened just before this interview. He, in the description of the BBC and NPR and a few other media outlets, he described the media outlets as, instead of a media company, they changed that to government-owned company. So NPR went on strike. They're not tweeting right now. And then CBC that comes from Canada also did the same thing. So what CBC did today was say they are funded, their funds is less than 70%. So Elon changed that to 69% government-funded media company. But because of that, BBC had to talk to Elon last week, and this interview particularly was really talked about, and he was really vibrant in this interview because he was trying to defend Twitter and the fact that since he acquired Twitter, there has been change. Some of the things he was talking about, and the first question that this correspondent had on him was about hate speech. He asked him about if he thinks hate speech has risen on Twitter. And then he said, and this was the fiery part where he was asking the journalist to describe exactly what he thinks hate speech is. And so the journalist was, slightly unable to describe that, but according to them, according to the BBC, after going through around 1,000, after tracking around 1,000 accounts, they think hate speech is there. But to him, he thinks because they got rid of around 400,000 accounts which were bots, and they were acting, to accelerate this hate speech, he thinks that he has mitigated that. And then part of the interview, the takeaways in the interview, the reporter, based on him bringing back Donald Trump on the platform, people presume that he voted for him, but he said he voted Joe Biden. So that's something that came out of that. And then he's about beating the bots. And then he was asked about the push against, the US is pushing really against TikTok because the US and Europe. So UK banned all their government officials from using TikTok on government-owned phones. So your official phones at work, you can't download TikTok there. So these are just some of the negative push that is coming from the West towards TikTok, because it's something that came from China. And for him, he says he's against TikTok ban, and he thinks that a free social media platform would be good, but also mentioning that if TikTok is banned, he might get a lot of numbers on Twitter. So something about that. And then he backed down from labeling BBC as government-owned. So on government-owned, only NPR and CBC perhaps are still in that fight. And then finally, something about social media subscriptions. In the past few months, since Elon took over Twitter, he started this, you have to pay for subscription. And last week, it was now put in place. Now, if you had a check mark, you have to pay for it, around $8, which is nearly 1,000 plus shillings in Kenya. That's how much the dollar is. And then Meta Verified also launched just after him to just react to that. And something that I was just thinking about during that time is previously these social media platforms were selling something about if you get on social media, you can freely sell what you can sell it's a free space to sell and grow your community. Right now, they're telling you if you want to get on the platform, you have to pay for it. So it's quite the opposite of that. And based on that, I think that's why Twitter and Meta, or maybe Twitter because they started this way earlier, are not really getting good numbers in terms of subscription. Generally, way less than 300,000. So it's something they have to test and perhaps maybe adapt some things like what Snapchat did and Reddit, because at first, if you went on Reddit, you'd get a lot of ads. And on Snapchat, you'd be limited to how much you can see a story. So just once and it disappears. So for them, at least they had they had a hand to play. So for them, with a premium, which is Snapchat Plus, for the Snapchat Plus, if you pay for that, you can be able to see the stories. What one person who is not paid would see it once, you'd see it maybe 20 times. And then for Reddit, too many ads there. If you pay for it, you can maybe get rid of the ads. Also, Reddit is good with there is never favicons there. You cannot put profile pictures. You can put that for premium. And so I think playing that hand before releasing a social platform would be good. Will be good if you want to eventually maybe make it premium. And then lastly, I'll talk about this. Generally, what I think about this subscription thing is while social media is struggling to get to premium or plus or getting people to pay for verified like Meta, streaming platforms like YouTube and maybe Apple Music and maybe what's this that Spotify really have millions and millions of people who subscribe on them, and also YouTube. So perhaps that's because of the value, because for Spotify there's exclusivity in music. And also for Apple Music, there is still also that. So perhaps for the social platforms, they will have to come up with value for the user to pay. Kelvin.
All right, thank you so much, Kelley Boss right there, who is our reporter, tech reporter right here on KTN Business. And we have just had a lot of talk, especially on, I took one thing from there. The official work phone is not allowed to download TikTok. I believe very many people would be affected by that. All right, we are going to take a short break, but when we come back, we will be talking